wrong with me? You would throw that twice in a row, wouldn't you? Ah! I still got this. Can't lose.
Play him in a custom match?
No, stop!
Welcome back to another video. It's been a minute since my last hero guide, so I'll waste no time getting into today's topic, which will be about For Honor's latest hero edition, Sohei. I would like to start out by saying that not only is Sohei probably the most unique hero For Honor has yet to see, but I love that he's been built from a real historical perspective. If you didn't know already, Sohei is largely based on the real-life legend of the warrior monk Benkei. I would also like to address the elephant in the room for those who might already be expecting me to talk about this, and that is Sohei's viability. The common consensus is that he's rather mid-tier, or even downright bad. I do understand the reasoning behind these critiques, but honestly I think Sohei has a hidden strength, and although niche, is very unique and powerful. I'll leave those reasons till the end of the video, but for now let's actually get into the content for which he came. Let's start with Sohei as an overall hero. His design was to be a steamroll type character. Slow to start, but his pressure and power build when played correctly. The slow part of his mechanic comes in the form of lower than normal damage values. All his attacks have their damage reduced by about 25% than that of the typical character. This is countered by the punishing part of his kit, which comes in the form of an insanely high damage punish, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. First, let's take a look at his moveset. It's pretty basic, yet also really bizarre. All of Sohei's combos are 2-hit chains. Although this is pretty normal for a heavy class character, Sohei can't alternate between lights and heavies mid-chain. If he starts a chain with a light attack, he is forced to use a light finisher. If he starts with a heavy attack, he is forced to follow up with a heavy finisher. Kinda odd. While this doesn't seem like much of a change, I will tell you it took some getting used to. Not being able to mix the two attack types, I ended up accidentally ending my combos before I wanted to, and it seemed most other players had this same issue. This was actually a point of contention for some people, as it made Sohei feel a bit clunky and slow, but honestly, I was okay with it. It made the character feel a bit different and not just another hero with the same exact moveset. I grew to appreciate the learning curve and develop his unique flow. Of course, there's some nuance here. For one, Sohei isn't technically forced into only 2-hit chains when factoring in his zone attack. After his first attack, he can use an in-chain zone which has a decent hitbox but also has hyper armor. After any attack, besides an opener zone, you can use the in-chain zone, which acts as a placeholder for either a light or heavy. Regardless of the attack type you choose to follow with, that light or heavy will always be a finisher. After this finisher, you can flow to the in-chain zone, which resets your infinite combo. This is super helpful to keep your pressure up and protects you from frames that would otherwise make you guard break vulnerable. Sohei also has an opener zone attack from which you can begin the same combo chain, but be careful because this opener is slow, and unlike the chained version, this one lacks hyper armor. Pro tip here, you can also soft feint either zone into a guard break. Now I'm gonna make something clear here. Your goal with Sohei will always be to get to your finisher moves as fast and as easily as possible. Remember how I mentioned Sohei is a steamroll character? His steamrolling utterly depends on your ability to land finisher moves, and this is apparent with the rest of his moveset. Sohei has dodge attacks, both light and heavy variants, from all directions, and all act as chain starters. He's got a neutral bash, where he can choose whether to use a light attack or heavy attack punish. Weirdly, both are guaranteed, but both also deal the same amount of damage. Like the dodge attacks, the purpose here of being able to choose either variant is to allow Sohei easier access to those finisher moves, which I'll get into now. The first thing you'll notice is how Sohei will use the glaive in his right hand for all his chain starters, dodge attacks, sprinting attacks, which also have a light and heavy variant, bash confirm, and his zone. The 6 weapons resting on his back are used during the finishers. Sohei uses a different weapon for every possible finisher, based on their attack type, light or heavy, and direction, left, right, or top. Among the light attacks, only the top one is of note. All the finisher lights are 400 ms, but the top one is undodgeable. The heavies are a little more unique. All are the same speed, and all are unblockable. However, each has a different property. Both the right and left heavies deal 18 damage. The right heavy delivers a short pin duration, which should be used for gank setups, and the left heavy deals a third of its total damage in bleed. Admittedly, the top heavy's unique property is just extra damage, dealing 20 instead of 18. These properties are neat and somewhat important, but they are not the steamroll mechanic. Every time Sohei lands one of these finishers, he gains a soul for that specific weapon. When you have a soul, a small white flame will appear, floating above the handle of the weapon you acquired it for. While in the middle of collecting your souls, nothing really that special happens. Your goal here is to collect a soul for each of the 6 weapons on your back, meaning you'll need to successfully land both light and heavy attack finishers from all 3 guard directions. Now, there is another way to earn souls, and this comes from Sohei's unique guard breaks. While landing a successful guard break, you can choose to time multiple attacks like Shinobi's Sickle Rain or Centurion's stamina draining punches. With Sohei, you throw 3 attacks, and for every attack that lands, you gain a soul. Although it's insanely strong to gain 3 souls from a single guard break, there are a few caveats. 1. You get to choose either only 3 light attacks or 3 heavy attacks. Simply press your desired option 3 times, and Sohei will cycle through the 3 weapons for that attack type, and gain a soul for each of them. 2. Each attack will only deal 3 damage, meaning only 9 physical damage will be dealt in total. This leads to a trade-off, where the player needs to make one of 3 choices. 1. Gain all of your light attack souls. 2. Gain all of your heavy attack souls. Or 3. Use your neutral zone attack. The neutral zone won't give you any souls, but it is guaranteed and deals 24 damage, which is the standard guard break punish for most characters. His neutral zone also leads to executions, just like any heavy attack would. Here, it's important for the Sohei to make the best choice for the situation at hand. Once you have all 6 souls, the white flames will turn a bright red, indicating you are fully charged. This is also the same moment when Sohei screams Benkei.
Benkei!
This is obviously a nod to the real Legend of Benkei, and I'm totally here for it. Now, after a neutral bash, you gain a 3rd attack option. Instead of only the light or heavy attack, you can now use your zone input after the bash for a guaranteed special move. Sohei grabs the enemy by the face, and after about 3 seconds, impales the target for a whopping 95 damage.
I'm gonna read, and I'm probably going to
Outside of jump attacking someone for 2000 damage, this is the single most punishing move of any hero in the game. Period. It doesn't even come close. The only thing more damaging is Hidakiri's tier 4 feat for 200 damage, but that's a whole tier 4. This special bash is permanently ingrained into Sohei's base kit. Some fun and important info regarding the soul collection and bash itself. It probably goes without saying, but once you use the special bash, you consume all 6 souls and need to restart collection. While collecting, you need to acquire a soul for each weapon separately in order to gain all 6 stacks. Hitting the same finisher on a weapon you already have a soul for doesn't do anything. Additionally, once you have a soul, it's permanently yours. No time limit on the thing, and disengaging from combat doesn't remove the soul either. The only ways to lose your souls are to consume them via the special bash, or when you die. Even if you've got 5 souls, and just need that last one, if you die, sorry pal, gotta restart from ground zero. The bash itself has 2 animations, one for just dealing the 95 raw damage, and the second one plays if your bash actually does enough damage to kill the opponent. If that happens, Sohei lifts them into the air and slams them into the ground. Throwing someone around like this feels so badass, and paired with his passionate Japanese war cry during the move, it feels like I've brought down the power of the sun. The scream is actually pretty funny though, and led to my friends and I screaming "Yuga" in some rough Japanese accent while performing the feared Soul Bash. By the way, Soul Bash is how we refer to the special move. Not really sure what Yuga means, but my buddy Hunter threw the meme at me and I just went with it. I will not be held responsible.
Yuga! 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 You're getting it. Yuga! 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 Shove your Yuga! Yuga!
Now with your newfound power, it'll be really easy to let it go to your head, so let me forewarn you. This is a very risky move in teamfights as it takes 3 seconds to complete, and it does not have hyper armor. Plus, if you are mid-animation and get knocked out of it before you land the devastating blow, you lose all your souls. If you're going to use it during a group fight, make sure you only are using it on isolated opponents. And make sure your teammates can peel for you while impaling your adversary. Just as important, you need to communicate with your team when you are about to perform the Soul Bash. Your teammates might be wildly swinging around, or mistake your neutral bash for a normal gank setup. Either way, they can just as easily knock you out of your punish and ruin the very thing you've worked so hard for. I got this.
But for damn near everything.
Oh, got my thing. Hold on. Hold on. I think you
Yo, you know how like everyone has their therapy?
There's a hole between the two.
and she's dead. Oh my! Oh. Let me bash her, let me bash her. No.
So screwed. There's no way to
I'm so sorry.
But probably is funny. What happened to this guy?
I don't want to be here anymore.
Moving on to feats, it shouldn't surprise you that Sohei has 4 unique ones. As you can imagine, they all deal directly with his moveset and playstyle, and 3 of them directly play with souls. His tier 1 is called Eye of the Demon. Sohei chooses a single enemy target and lowers their defense by 25%, and this lasts for 20 seconds. On its own, being able to choose an enemy to take 25% more damage as a tier 1 is kinda cracked. This especially helps out Sohei. If you remember from earlier, he deals 25% less damage to counteract his massive bash punish. Putting this debuff on someone means that the natural balancing feature to keep Sohei in check is completely negated and makes him far more deadly. Going further, even if Sohei can't get any damage in himself, his teammates still can get value out of it, and they will be dealing 25% more damage to that target. And yes, before you even ask, this does affect your special bash. If you soul bash a debuff target, that enemy will take 25% more damage from your bash, making you even scarier, if that was somehow still possible. His other options are Iron Lungs and Speed Revive, but his unique is undoubtedly the best. His tier 2 is called Soul Soother. While you have all 6 souls, using this feat will fully heal yourself. Even if you're at 1 HP or about to bleed to death, this feat will always grant a full heal. Upon activation, this will consume all 6 of your souls, so this will sacrifice your option for that sweet, sweet damage. You might think it's crazy to give away such a powerful move, and I completely understand. But sometimes you won't have a real opportunity for that big damage, and being able to heal is just as powerful of an option. A perfect example is in this clip. Although I had all 6 souls, I didn't have the opportunity to use the bash as I was in the heat of a team fight, and there was no way I was going to successfully get the bash off without being interrupted. Given that circumstance, and understanding that I'm near death, having the option to fully reset back to full HP was a fantastic option. It not only gave me a fighting chance, but ultimately allowed me to stall way longer than I should have been able to, allowing my teammates to drop back and even the fight. I definitely think the special bash is usually the better option of the two, since you can basically choose someone to send back to the respawn screen, but still, having the choice in specific circumstances to fully heal is a crazy powerful ability, and I am not at all upset by it. It's also good to know that even though this is an active feat, it doesn't have any cooldown. The only limiting factor is how fast you can regain all 6 souls, and this synergizes very well with his unique tier 4, but you'll see how that works later. His other options are Arrow Strike and Smoke Bomb, but again, I think his unique feat is the best. His tier 3 is called Ancillary Might. If you have all 6 souls collected, you gain a permanent 25% damage bonus until you die or consume your souls. First, you are increasing your damage output by 25%, thus offsetting the natural 25% damage debuff to curb your big punish. Like the tier 1 feat, this also affects the damage of the bash, and increases the damage by 25%. Additionally, this is a permanent buff, so long as you hold all 6 souls. Like the tier 2, there's a trade-off. If you refuse to consume the souls, your damage output will be noticeably more, and now your enemies have to treat you as more of a threat during any combat scenario. However, if you choose to heal or soul bash anyone, you lose your extra damage. Decision making from the Sohei is paramount. For his other options, you have Punch Through or Tough as Nails. Sohei actually has the Headhunter perk, so it's a viable option to pair that perk with Tough as Nails and become an absolute unit on the battlefield. The downside though is because of Sohei's ability, you aren't getting nearly as many executions with him, which reduces your value of Headhunter. And on top of that, the passive pressure from all that extra damage is just too good to be overlooked in my opinion. Finally, his tier 4 is called Soul Waker, and admittedly there's nothing really special about this one. Upon activation, Sohei immediately fills all 6 soul slots, and that's it. Don't get me wrong though, this is very powerful since you can streamline the whole slow rolling process and immediately gain access to all your buffs. On command, you gain your 25% damage boost and have the looming threat of your soul bash, and have the option to fully heal without doing any of the hard work normally required. It's also a crazy scenario to be in a team fight where you use your regularly collected souls to put someone in the ground, then immediately regain all your souls to absolutely dunk on the next guy. Truly, the most feared being humanity has ever seen. I've also been in situations where the Sohei is low health but already has all his souls. He uses the tier 2 to fully heal, then uses the tier 4 to regain all the souls he just consumed, and now he's a full health threat ready to deal the damage of an intercontinental ballistic missile. Again, this feat doesn't offer any kind of special or unique mechanic, but it is still very strong and fun to play around with. His other tier 4s are Regenerate and Aerostorm. And while I think Aerostorm has a viable argument for taking the place of his unique feat, his unique one does provide more synergy with his other feats, so I've been using Soulwaker. For the last section of this video, I wanted to get into some neat tricks with Sohei. For one, I want everyone to be aware of his hitboxes. They are bizarre. For one, the hitboxes on his chained attacks are non-existent. I have tried to hit a billion different externals with these, and the only time any of them are successful are when the person I'm externaling is literally directly in front of me.
The fact that you didn't walding scares me.
On the other hand, I smacked this person with a neutral heavy attack, which I did not expect at all.
Guess what? I'm him. Oh shit.
What an
I
external.
can't believe I got that.
The only real consistent way to external people are with his zone attacks, but even those seem to have some sort of odd hitboxes. A neat little mind game I've started doing is paying attention to your use of parry punishes. Like any other hero, Sohei can use a guaranteed light attack on heavy parries, or get a guaranteed heavy on light parries. But Sohei has a pretty neat mechanic where parries act like a chain starter, meaning your counter attack is a finisher. This makes getting parries quite strong for his character. If you parry someone at all, you can just choose which side you want to throw a light from and get a guaranteed soul for one of your light attack weapons. If you parry someone's light attack, you can get a free heavy or light soul that you're missing guaranteed. This is great, but a specific mind game that I like to make is on heavy parries. After the parry, I'll throw a non-guaranteed heavy attack, but remember, since it's a finisher, it will be unblockable. My opponent knows that it's not guaranteed. They might have even thought I messed up my intended punish, and because it's glowing orange, they are likely to try for a parry. Instead, I will feint the move to a guard break and snag the souls I want. Sure, it's not a guaranteed move, but this does give you a unique defensive play, and you really need to pay attention to the souls that you lack. If I heavy parry someone and I'm only missing one of my light attack souls, I'm just going to get the last light attack I need. But if I still need a mix of souls, or I don't have any at all, I'll likely go for the feint unblockable to get a boost of souls. Paying attention to what you need is critical here, and allows you to strategize far more efficiently, and really maximize the pressure on your opponents. Looking at Sohei's overall viability from a comp perspective, I'm kinda mixed. He's by far from the best team fighter. He has very little external ability, and due to his natural lower damage, he's not particularly useful. In duels, he also has the problem of lower damage, which means if you never use your special bash, it's likely to take longer than normal to dispatch your opponents. The longer they are kept alive means the more time they have to kill you, and increases their ability to stall in team-based modes. Going even farther, his minion clear is decent, but there are far better options anyway. And his movement speed is a bit slower than others, so rotating effectively is slightly more difficult. Even his feat selection, as good as it is, are all selfish, except for the tier 1, and only affect him alone. Given all of this, it would seem that Sohei isn't comp viable, but I honestly think this is okay. The best way I can explain his viability is through the same way his character functions. He is a high risk, high reward pick. Most of the time, he's either average or rather unthreatening, but when he does become threatening, everyone knows about it. Sohei carries with him a kind of passive pressure unrivaled by anyone else on the roster. Losing track of a Sohei soul count is a grave miscalculation. My friends and I have been caught in countless fights where we didn't notice the Sohei's creeping power at first, and then hear the Ben-K war cry, and a small panic ensues. We know that we can't split off in a teamfight, or somehow get isolated, because if we do, we won't be able to peel for that teammate, ending in a massive punish. Even if the Sohei never plans on using the bash during a particular skirmish, the looming threat that he could use it is enough to force us to play differently, play a little more reserved. It's even worse if the enemy Sohei is fully charged and manages to get revenge from our negligence. At that point, it's all over. Sohei being able to just straight up eliminate a player from a fight is crazy powerful, and the kind of passive pressure this puts on his enemies, I think is enough to give him a viable spot in high-risk, niche settings. Overall, I think there's more reliable options for your team roster, and if you do decide to pick up a Sohei, your whole team kinda needs to play around him. Keep your Sohei alive until he can get all 6 souls, and protect him while he uses them. He's very unique and serves a niche purpose. Ultimately, he's going to be a high-risk pick, but if you can make it work, he can be a real threat to any team. Before we close out today, I want to make an exciting announcement. For those of you who have seen my previous videos, know I did a collaboration with Suji the Maiden, a well-known Nusha player. I'm excited to announce a new collab video is in the works with another well-known player in the For Honor community, and we will be working to give you another hero-specific guide for one of my personal favorites. But for now, I'm not giving away anything else. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. And with that, we'll end the video here. I would like to thank you all so very much for watching, and I hope you learned something new. As always, take care, and don't forget to join the dark side.